middleweight champion of the world, presentando a Saúl Canelo Alvarez.
As Terence Crawford, the undefeated fighter from right here in Omaha, and he has this city abuzz, I assure you.
Okay.
Well, here we go.
Terence "Bud" Crawford will officially take on Saul Canelo Alvarez on September 12th at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, a colossal venue for what's being hyped as one of the biggest matchups of the modern era. The confirmation came moments after Canelo's latest bout in Saudi Arabia, a relatively uneventful 12-round decision win over William Scull, and was followed by a dramatic in-ring announcement from Turki Alalshikh, the chairman of Saudi Arabia's General Entertainment Authority. With bright lights, cameras flashing, and both fighters sharing the ring during the announcement, Turki didn't hold back. He labeled it the fight of the century, but not everyone is buying into the grandeur just yet. While the visuals were cinematic and the setting undeniably historic, longtime boxing insiders and analysts were quick to raise eyebrows. For all the noise surrounding the announcement, some are calling the fight of the century label an overstatement, even bordering on PR exaggeration. Critics argue that while Canelo and Crawford are undeniably elite, this matchup may be arriving at the wrong time, or worse, replacing a more deserving fight that fans have wanted for years. Is this a true clash of titans, or a carefully timed event capitalizing on legacy, not competition? The announcement has sparked excitement, yes, but also skepticism, division, and a lot of debate about whether this was the right move for boxing's future. As the final bell rang on Canelo's victory over William Scull, a bout that left many viewers unimpressed, the night took a sharp turn. Turki Alalshikh stepped into the ring with confidence, standing beside Canelo and soon-to-be rival Terence Crawford, and declared what he called a historic event. Now we want to do the fight of the century. We want to the fight between the two great fighters of our generation, Canelo Alvarez and Crawford. It'll be in the stadium in Las Vegas on September 12th. The crowd in Saudi Arabia applauded, cameras flashed, and the sports world exploded with breaking headlines. But across social media, the reception was far more complicated. Within minutes, boxing fans flooded Twitter, Reddit, and forums with mixed reactions. Some were stunned in the best way, celebrating what they called a pound-for-pound dream fight. But others weren't convinced. Fight of the century? One user scoffed. This is more like the fight of the month, and not even the one we asked for. Across comments and hot takes, a clear divide emerged. Canelo versus Crawford wasn't the fight that hardcore fans were begging for. That honor belonged to David Benavidez, the undefeated Mexican-American brawler who's been chasing Canelo for years and represents a more natural, explosive challenge at 168 pounds. Instead, fans are getting a cross-divisional matchup. A legacy bout, yes, but one that also feels safer for both fighters in different ways. And while the production around the announcement screamed epic, the undercurrent of doubt suggests that this fight may need a lot more than a flashy stage to win over everyone. On paper, it was a clean sweep. Canelo Alvarez cruised to a unanimous decision win over IBF mandatory challenger William Scull, with scorecards reading 115, 113, 116, 112, and a dominant 119-109. But if you actually watch the fight, you know something didn't sit right. There was no fire, no urgency, no sense of risk. And by the final bell, boos could be heard from parts of the crowd. Fans weren't celebrating a dominant champion. They were groaning at a glorified sparring session. Scull, unbeaten but untested, seemed content to simply survive. He spent most of the fight circling the ring, flicking out the occasional jab and doing just enough to stay out of trouble. There were few exchanges, no drama, and almost zero damage inflicted from the challenger's side. The most explosive moment of the night wasn't a punch. It was Crawford stepping into the ring after it ended. Even Canelo, despite the win, didn't hide his frustration. He came to survive. I hate fighting guys like that. I hope September is different. And make no mistake, this fight wasn't about Scull. It was a required title defense, yes, but it was also a strategic chess move to re-establish Canelo as the undisputed king at 168, just in time to set the stage for Crawford. But the plan might have backfired in one key way. Instead of intimidating his future opponent with a dominant showcase, Canelo's lackluster performance may have just fueled Crawford's confidence, because the one man smiling ringside through it all was Bud. When the cameras panned to Terence Crawford sitting ringside, he didn't look tense. He looked calculating, like a man already imagining himself inside that ring. And after the fight, when he stepped between the ropes for the face-off with Canelo, something unexpected happened. Bud looked bigger. That visual stunned fans watching at home, and even commentators covering the event. The long-standing narrative was that Crawford, the former undisputed champ at 140 and 147 pounds, would be too small to pose a real threat to Canelo, who has fought comfortably at 168 and even 180 at 175. But in that moment, under the lights, Crawford looked filled out, strong, and noticeably thicker than he did in his welterweight days. Maybe even thicker than Canelo himself. And that wasn't just an illusion. Crawford's been off for nearly 9 months since narrowly edging out Israel Madrimov in his 154-pound debut. During that time, insiders say Bud's been bulking strategically, focusing on muscle, recovery, and ring IQ. He's not coming in to survive. He's coming in to shock the world. In a statement shortly after the fight, Crawford kept it respectful but made his intentions clear. Canelo did what he had to do with what was in front of him. September, I'll show the world what greatness looks like. I'm the best. That's why everyone will be watching. So while critics debate if this fight was built on legacy or hype, one thing's for sure, Crawford's not showing up to collect a check. He's showing up to end an era. There's something unnerving about a fighter who doesn't need to shout. After the face-off, Crawford didn't launch into theatrics or insults. Instead, he played it cool and but sharp. Canelo did what he had to do. In September, I'll show the world what greatness looks like. Simple, director, and it carried more weight than 1,000 press conference brawls, but that wasn't all. Days later, on Shannon Sharpe's Club Shay Shay podcast, Crawford peeled back the curtain a little more, and his tone shifted from calm to cutting. Now the money's right and he can't run anymore, Crawford said with a smirk. That line landed like a punch. No screaming, no swearing. Just a quiet accusation that Canelo had avoided him for years, until the Saudi money forced the door open. Crawford made it clear, he isn't chasing Canelo. He's chasing greatness. He's not trying to become famous. He's trying to become immortal. A third division undisputed crown would be history-making. That's the mission. And now that the red carpet's rolled out, the gloves are coming off. For Canelo, this fight is more than another payday. It's a statement. With his win over Scull, he re-secured his place as the undisputed super middleweight champion, now holding the WBA, WBC, WBO, and freshly acquired IBF titles. That undisputed status gives the Crawford bout legitimacy and helps distract from criticism that Canelo's recent opponents haven't posed a real threat. But here's the unspoken truth. This isn't the same Canelo who ran through Gennady Golovkin or knocked out Sergey Kovalev. The legs are slower, the punches come in measured bursts, not blazing flurries. The reflexes? Still sharp, but not electric. Critics argue Crawford is catching him at just the right time. After the peak but before the fall. Still, Canelo hasn't lost his edge entirely. In the post-fight interview after beating Scull, he praised Crawford's skills and showed flashes of the old fire. I like fighting real fighters like Crawford. That's what people want. That's why we're here. There's pride. There's purpose. But will that be enough when he's facing a man who's hungry for legacy? And not just titles. Behind the scenes, the business machine is already roaring. The fight's venue, Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, guarantees spectacle. The Saudi-backed buzz ensures global media attention. But fans? They're already clutching their wallets. No official pay-per-view price has been announced. But whispers inside boxing circles suggest a price point that could touch or even surpass $100, echoing the controversial pricing of Mayweather versus Pacquiao. For context, Canelo's fight against Scull, a far less hyped event, was priced at $60 on Dazznet. A bump for a mega fight was expected, but a jump this steep? That's where the trouble begins. Here's the issue. Crawford, while a pound-for-pound king, isn't considered a mainstream superstar. He doesn't bring viral headlines or crossover fame. Hardcore fans adore his technical brilliance, but casuals? Many still don't know his name. Combine that with the lukewarm reaction to Canelo's last performance, and you have a dangerous equation. High price plus limited hype equals possible backlash. And that's before factoring in the fan sentiment online. Scroll through the comment sections and you'll see it. Where's Benavidez? 100 for Crawford? Nah, this ain't Mayweather-Pacquiao. Turki Alalshikh may have called it the fight of the century, but for many fans, that title feels like marketing overreach, not a reflection of reality. Still, with 4 months to go, the narrative could shift, but it'll take more than face-offs and promo clips. It'll take fire from both men, inside and outside the ring. For months, arguably years, hardcore boxing fans have had one name on their lips when it comes to Canelo Alvarez, David Benavidez. The undefeated Mexican monster has stalked the 168-pound division with relentless pressure, raw power, and the kind of fan-friendly style that screams pay-per-view fireworks. So when Turki Alalshikh stepped into the ring and declared Canelo vs. Crawford the fight of the century, the online reaction was immediate and divided. Sure, it's a super fight between two undisputed kings, but for many, it also felt like a strategic detour. A detour around the most dangerous man in Canelo's division. The criticism isn't subtle. Fans and analysts alike are questioning why Canelo, who insists on challenging real fighters, skipped over his own mandatory for a legacy fight with a smaller man moving up in weight. Let's not forget, David Benavidez has been calling out Canelo relentlessly, daring him to settle the score in the ring. He's younger, fresher, and naturally bigger. In boxing math, that's a bad mix for a 33-year-old veteran who's already logged over 60 fights. So, the narrative forming now? Canelo took the safer path. He picked Crawford, an older, lighter opponent with less one-punch knockout threat, over the lion waiting at 168. It's not just fans saying it. Promoters and pundits are joining the chorus. "This is a great fight," one veteran matchmaker said, "but it's not the right one." Scroll through Twitter, Reddit, or the YouTube comments, and you'll find the boxing community is locked in a passionate tug of war. On one side, pure admiration. Crawford versus Canelo is a historic meeting of two generational talents, both undisputed, both elite technicians, both future Hall of Famers. Fans see this as a rare opportunity to witness greatness collide. On the other, skepticism, even resentment. To them, this matchup feels more like a prestige exhibition than a fight with real urgency. Crawford's not a natural 168-pounder, and some argue he hasn't earned a shot at Canelo's throne without first cleaning out 154 or even 160. Still, boxing royalty is weighing in with excitement. Roy Jones Jr. didn't hold back. If Crawford pulls this off, he's the greatest fighter of the modern era. Period. That's not hyperbole. If Crawford becomes undisputed in a third weight class, something never before done in the four-belt era, he'd leap past most pound-for-pound lists and maybe even rewrite history itself. But here's the catch. Intrigue doesn't always sell. Legacy fights appeal to purists, but pay-per-view requires casuals, the same fans who bought into Tyson versus Jones or Mayweather versus Logan Paul might not know or care who Crawford really is. So the real question isn't whether this fight matters, it's whether the public will show up with their attention and their wallets. With the fight locked in for September 12th at Allegiant Stadium, both Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford are now under the spotlight and under the gun. For Canelo, the next 4 months are a race to silence doubters. He's the bigger man, the reigning champ, the one with the home field advantage in Vegas. But he's also fighting a man with faster hands, sharper footwork, and something to prove. This isn't a tune-up, this is a trap, and he knows it. For Crawford, the stakes are even higher. A win would crown him as the only male fighter in history to become undisputed in 3 different divisions. It would be a seismic shift in boxing's power structure, and a giant middle finger to everyone who ever said he was too small, too quiet, or too boring to be a star. The face-off has happened. The sound bites are starting to roll in, and the storyline is still being written. But make no mistake, this isn't just about belts. It's about legacy. It's about timing. It's about two greats gambling everything for the right to say, "I was the best of my era." The question now is simple. Can they convince the world this really is the fight of the century? Because the clock is ticking, and in boxing, timing is everything. Alright guys, for the best updates on boxing news, moments, events, and actions, subscribe to Knockout Updates and turn on notifications to never miss out on quality content and check out our other videos. Until next time, peace out.